cobwebs out. I haven't done a show since basketball season ended. So that's
Good start, Grant. What's up, everybody? Lou TV. We're doing our first official game day slate type action here. We got Grant with us. We got Zach with us. No Andrew. He's grounded because of all the dirty things he's said in the last couple of weeks. It's exciting to have Grant on, Fantasy Elite founder and just awesome guy. What's up, Grant? How you doing these days?
It's good. Yeah, a lot of you guys are gonna get these. Both of you guys were in the tournaments. You're getting these shirts. Like, we've been putting these out. They're kind of cool. Like, only my team members have them now. But I just got this is the more recent shipment of them, and they're awesome and they're comfortable. So we'll be getting those distributed. I think it's the best swag in DFS besides maybe my Lou Dog sweatshirt that I love. I wear all the time. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. This is my favorite DFS sport. So I'm really happy about the work we put into it to make it. I think even more exciting. I think the elite game has been getting good reviews so far for CFB since we launched it about a week ago. The only flaw of doing it a week early was there were a few mispricings that resulted from depth chart changes. But for the most part, I think that we released a really strong week one product, and I'm looking forward to breaking down all the games. A lot of college football this week, got 4 days in a row. So definitely get my fill almost a whole year without it.
It's tough with pricing, man, because you got to get it out early for people to be joining. And if you look at all the different sites, DraftKings, FanDuel, Fantasy Aces, I mean, all those sites have some guys where they're underpriced. And honestly, it worked itself out where there's two guys that are underpriced where you have to pretty much take in the first two picks, if you're asking me. And so it's kind of like a fair game. You kind of get to pick which one you want to go with. So it ends up not being too bad. Zach, you have not completed your draft. You're trying to get that going, but you've done a bunch of these other drafts, I'm guessing, with smaller money. How do you like this slate so far?
Yeah, it's cool, man. It took a little bit to kind of get used to it, but it's definitely unique. Never done it before, but it's definitely cool.
You gotta pull yourself a little bit down. Your face is like getting blocked by the bar.
My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. You're not used to the overlay. So what I thought we would do really quick, because we're a Fantasy Elite could be new to some of these people, so we'll spend maybe like 2-3 minutes on kind of the process of what Fantasy Elite is in terms of drafting, maybe like a quick rundown of strategy, Grant, because obviously you've been around the block of this thing for a long time now. So with Fantasy Elite, it's a back and forth, draft, like a snake draft. Draft Street had it for a little while too. You have the 100K salary cap, and pretty much, I guess for college football, it's 9 players. When you finish the draft, you can swap out a player at any time as long as it's before the complete start of the games, or is it the complete start of that separate game?
It is the complete start of that. It's the start of that separate game. So it's like DraftKings or Star Street. Well, Star Street was.
You can late swap.
Yeah. You can late swap them up until their game starts. Yeah. So it's very, very similar to that. So like DraftKings, Star Street, Fan Throwdown, all the sites that have done the late swap, it's exactly like that. But the only difference is that unlike in those late swap sites, you can see the opponent's roster before the game start. So you don't have any guys hidden, and you can only add players that aren't on another team. So, and that can be a big edge in a lot of sports, especially college football. People always talk about college football being kind of the hybrid of NBA and NFL. And I think that's a pretty good way to put it. And, you get a lot of late scratches in college football. So it definitely is worthwhile to be kind of tracking the news leading up to your elite games, because if all of a sudden you can hear a guy scratching right before their game, you might get a 5K guy in that's a complete game changer, and then adjust your roster after the draft. So, roster management is definitely a big part of it. And Chris was saying some of those 5K guys, the value guys is really what it comes down to in elite. It's not like a traditional snake draft. So the real people who know the value get to pick that sleeper right away if they think a guy's undervalued, which I kind of love about the format. And, you're right, Chris, there are 2 5K guys that are, I think it's Friday slate, that are very obvious, but if we tell you those guys and your opponent doesn't know them, then you even get a bigger edge, because it's not a fair game if the person doesn't research and they don't pick either, which is very viable, especially with Taysom Hill, even at 27K almost. He might still be taken as the first pick by someone just coming into the elite draft for the first time. We try to do our best to educate, but I'm being realistic that people are going to mess up, and especially this week. Like a lot of new eyeballs in elite college football. We're spending money to market it, so I would definitely take advantage of the fact that there are tons of games in the lobby all the time. There'll be a lot more tomorrow, and yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very exciting time for us in college football. There's going to be a lot of elite content out there across the industry, and it's going to bring people in. So, you're getting a head start by being on this show tonight. We're going to do a draft later. Chris and I'll play and kind of show how we're going about this week. But I think that it's definitely, for college football, a perfect fit. And the short slates make sure that we're only putting quality games in all of our college slates, and it's going to come through tonight. And on Saturday, you're going to get to avoid all the really crummy games and play some really high-quality college football. So happy to get off the races here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think what I like about the fact, besides the fact that college football is so research-based, where there's not a whole lot of luck going into it. I mean, sure, you can win because a guy scores 3 touchdowns, but for the most part, consistently, it's going to be more skill-based than any other of these websites. And it's really cool, in my opinion. Just the next couple of days will be everybody that wants to play can play a slate where you don't have to worry about San Diego playing Oregon. Or like Arizona State playing Weber State or whatever. Like, no disrespect to those 2 smaller schools, but if there's gonna be points to be scored there, and I don't really want to have to worry about if the backup's gonna score or whatever and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of puts everybody at like an even playing field. And if you're into the whole games where you're not worrying about these FCS teams playing the big schools, this is where you want to be playing. Especially, Zach, how when you're playing DFS in general? I know you're kind of new to it, but like, how do you feel about these smaller schools? Would you rather just avoid them, or would you rather be playing? Would you rather take that chance, Zach?
You mean smaller schools as like the FCS, right?
Yeah. Not like a New Mexico against Oregon, but more like a San Diego against Oregon,
or like Southern Utah kind of thing. Yeah. I think it just depends on the team that's playing them. Like Oregon is going to put up a ton of points anyway. So I feel like, you go get one of those guys that maybe second or third at the running back position, and he's still going to have a really good game for Oregon. But now if you were to tell me, go get a guy from, let's just say, I don't know, Washington, they don't have like a set style of play to where who's going to pick the points up. You know what I mean? I guess that's hard to explain.
No, I see what you're getting at there. I mean, Oregon's going to score no matter what.
And they're going to run the ball all the time.
Yeah, so I definitely see where you're going there. You've done some drafts, Zach. Who do you think? I mean, do you think Kenny Hill is the obvious number 1, and then Vanderbilt's running back's the obvious number 2, Ralph Webb? Or would flip-flop them, or do you say, no, I don't want either of them kind of thing, Zach?
No, I think Kenny Hill's got a lot of upside. I mean, obviously with Kevin Sumlin's offense, if he does in fact keep that job through the whole game, he could put up a lot of points. And Vandy's running back. Yeah, I mean, I don't like Vanderbilt's running situation because Seymour was the guy, and then all of a sudden he's not the guy. So they say they got. Was it Webb as the starter? They might go 2 or 3 running backs just to kind of test them out in that first game. But
the 5K though, you get Ralph Webb at $5,000, right? So,
5K, it's not a big risk. I mean, but I like.
I think it's a less big risk than Hill, because if you're sacrificing that quarterback position, that's a position where I think there are a lot of guys that are going to score a lot of guaranteed points. Right. So I think that we give 6 points per touchdown in elite. So you're just taking a bunch of points off the board from some of these top quarterbacks. I think if you go and take that risk on Hill, and I'm willing to bet you Hill is taken in 75% of elite drafts. I'm not sure it's going to be the case. He should be, but I think in most drafts, and every draft I've seen executed so far in the tournament, Hill's been taken, and not only is he taken, he's the first pick. And I'm not sure I agree with him being taken at all. But I think when there's a guy like, this is why you should tune into the show, and we're doing the homework for you. Ralph Webb is also at 5K, and he's a running back who doesn't necessarily take away those guaranteed points and will get you the same cap relief. So I think I'd put him as he's maybe the top value play. I like at receiver. I like the spot Caru's in also. And he was the guy we priced, but I still think that in that kind of scoring environment, I think he's clearly the best receiver on Rutgers. I believe Ohio State, one of our players, Chris has mentioned before, the show's very active, tweeted out that he thought Carew was going to be the best player from this slate, period. That's a bold statement, but still a good value at 8,000.
Yeah, here's my thought process on the whole Kenny Hill and Ralph Webb thing. Like you said, the guaranteed points at quarterback is kind of like tomorrow or with Friday's game. Taysom Hill is guaranteed points. Like you're guaranteed to get 2 to 3 touchdowns and 100 yards rushing and at least 200 yards passing. So you know what you're getting. Kenny Hill. The thing with Kenny Hill for me is I don't know what to think about South Carolina's defense. South Carolina's defense has been pretty good, but they lose a couple guys on the line. Obviously, Clowney. Like, how do they recover from that? I've heard that one of my coworkers is a huge Gamecocks fan, and he's like, defense is strong, the safety position is a little weak. Well, is Kenny Hill advanced enough to be able to throw the deep ball or to recognize zone coverages and that kind of thing? And this is the SEC. So I kind of, at the beginning of these drafts, started really loving some of the value on Texas A&M, like guys like Speedy Noyle and Seals Jones and Trey Carson. And obviously Kenny Hill, and I've kind of switched over to the other side because I know Texas A&M's defense is that bad.
That's what happens when you research, man.
Right? Don't you think that Texas A&M's defense? We talked about this, I think, last week, Zach. That's the defense you want to go against. And I know that I think we talked in the pre-show about Mike Davis's his situation with whatever his injury was, and now Spurrier saying he's good to go. Who knows what he really is with college football, but. That's the guy I want to be taking, Mike Davis. And honestly, in my draft, I had Davis, I have Damiere Byrd, and I have Dylan Thompson. So I went a bunch of South Carolina guys.
Yeah, I like Thompson this week too.
Yeah, Davis one of the stud running back carryovers from last year. There's a few guys that were constant producers in last year's climate in CFB, and Davis is one of those guys, and Paul James was also one of those guys. And you got Ajayi. I mean, you're talking about for a 4-game slate. There are a lot of plays in here in terms of guys that are big-time producers at running back. I think the running back position actually, in my mind, is the most fascinating on Thursday's slate because you get 3 real studs, and then you got all the value. And that's what I was going to mention is if we're talking the Texas A&M South Carolina game, I personally think there's a real strategy in some of the flex spots, more so than the running back spots, your primary guys, to putting in both Carson and Williams. And playing them as playing those guys as a combo because I think that they're going to be uncomfortable passing the ball. It's a new quarterback, and I can see these guys in a game that's still a 60 over under. They're favored to lose, but I think that they still are the team is in a position that these guys could both get theirs in your flex spots late in the draft. I don't think that they're the kind of guys that I want to be. I like running backs, so they're guaranteed touches. I'm not a guy I'd jump at in the 3rd round, but your rounds 8 and 9, you got about 8,000 to 9,000 salary left per player. I think it's a direction that you can go in.
Yeah, Paul James is a great option. I don't think I ended up getting much of him.
His backup's good. Goodwin's a good player. If Goodwin gets opportunities.
That's what kind of bothered me a little bit about him was his pricing was so close to Davis, $16K compared to $18K. And I don't know, Rutgers, man, I just don't feel like trusting Rutgers a whole lot. I feel like James is going to be a good play. I don't think there's really any doubt about it. But 16K, it's tough because there's other guys. There's Matt Miller, who's a good option at 16K, and there's a bunch of 9 to 11K guys that we can get to in a little bit here. But let's try to do this. Let's finish off the Texas A&M game, and then let's move on because I don't want to be scattering everywhere and forget somebody.
Sure.
Texas A&M, would you rather have a guy like Speedy Noyle for I think just over 5K, or would you rather have Seals Jones, the Mike Evans wannabe, at 7.5K, Grant?
I want Jones. I've been doing a lot of challenges. Some of which were misguided because I have Gabe Marks in those challenges. So, Zach could make fun of me prior to the show. I have Gabe Marks in some of them. That's what happens when I hadn't done my full slate of research prior to today before the show. So I got caught on Marks. We'll talk about that later. But Seals Jones is a guy that is in a a lot of my drafts that I did with people, trying to teach them how to use Elite. And I think he's a guy that I feel, once again, I think there's a lot of value, that, especially because they're favored to lose by 10. So late in the game, I could see them chucking the ball up. He's the kind of guy who in a fourth quarter can grab a touchdown for you. I just like his spot. I always like looking for quarterbacks and receivers in high over-under spread games where teams are going to lose. Because then if they're down by 2 touchdowns, the defense is terrible. They're going to go into desperation mode of chucking the ball up. And if they do, this guy's going to be in the game and could grab a touchdown in the fourth quarter in addition to some catches. So I'm all about him. I think he's one of the top plays today for tomorrow's games in Elite.
Yeah, what about you, Zach? I have a feeling you're going to go the other way. Are you going Speedy or are you going Jones?
I could go either way, but just for the sake of this argument, I'll throw the argument of Noyle is going to be used in a lot of different ways, I feel like, with them. I think he was recruited as an athlete, if I remember correctly, but I think he played quarterback in high school. But they said they want to use him, either in the backfield or split him out, put him in the slot. So we don't really know what we're going to see out of him, but at 5K, he could be, kind of all over the field. So might be worth a grab on that one.
Yeah, I think that he's one of those guys, like I discussed with the running backs at A&M, who's not a guy at 5K I'd start my roster around, but if you got Ajayi or you wanted to go for Holiday or Bo Wallace and Mike Davis, and later in the draft you have all this, you need to get a guy at 5 to 6K, same. I think that's where I'd categorize, and that's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, they're both. I mean, really, it's really tough because Noah's a little bit less known than Jones is, I think. Seals Jones was a huge prospect out of high school. Had that weird first year with the injury and the DUI after it. And Noyle, though, there's been a lot of talk on Twitter. I mean, I like to Twitter search these guys. I want to hear, for one, if they're injured or if there's any injuries, because you know how that is. Deontay Greenberry, I'll never forget that guy for what he did to me last year.
He's not as bad as the Anthony Thomas, who actually played the game and hurt himself on the first punt return.
Oh, that was terrible.
That was terrible.
I still was amazing that my lap that week was so good on, I think it was Star Street. My lap was so good that I already won the game anyway by the time that game started. But still, it was a very frustrating occurrence. That was terrible. And there's one other one. The worst was the John Connor, when the Twitter people said he was going to start, and I pulled Bennett, and then Bennett got 3 touchdowns and 220 yards, which was just that was just terrible. I just wanted to start the Pittsburgh running back against ODU, and I had Bennett, and then they said Connor was starting, so I changed, and that was just not. He didn't play. He never had a snap. So you got to be on Twitter looking at the information, unless it's about John Connor, in which case ignore it because he might not play.
Run like hell.
I was actually going to ask you guys, do you guys Twitter search as much as I do?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay, because I used to Google search. Now I Twitter search.
Everything.
Twitter search, man.
That's what I do. I mean, not no Google News anymore. And then before a game in college football, if I've got a player, I actually look at every player in my lineup because you just don't know. And the good thing about Elite and the product, I would note that this is one of the really unique features of our game, and the best player news out there if you're using the app on iPhone or iPad. You click on the player, you tap on the player, you can look at all the tweets about them recently. So, and that's in-player research on the app. It will be on the website soon. If you're playing on another site even, use that feature. The player research feature is amazing in our games. You can just look at a player. Even, Zach, if you're playing for your season-long teams, I would go into our player research and tap the player because we have a beat writer. We have the last name searched and all the beat writers for their team. So it's definitely a valuable research tool in Elite. And if you're in your team, you just pull up your Elite team, you can just tap on the player and get the tweets. So definitely recommend doing that. It's one other part that makes our college football game so much better than what else is out there, is that we actually have solid player news in those player cards for the players. Especially for the big conference teams. If you're playing the Tulsa-Tulane games, we didn't offer, but you might not get as good a news as you do in Texas A&M's playing South Carolina. But that's just the way it goes.
I'm looking at Mike Davis now because he's one of the big guys with the injury issue. I clicked on his name, a bunch of tweets from Daryl Slater. You can click on the link he has in there, and then one of the tweets is from GoGamecocks.com. It's a Spurrier quote. Hopefully Mike will be 100% full speed by Thursday. We think he will be. So smaller stuff like that. I'm not going to click the links in here, but I'm
Except
sure
the kind of
there's
person that
updates
reads
there.
into that and says that, you know what, he says we think. So that's a key word. Just, I think if you draft Davis, handcuff him. I at least recommend, like, putting a handcuff on Davis is not the worst idea in the world if you do indeed.
Well, because Brandon Wilds is so cheap as well. He's like 5.8K, I think, and he's a good running back. Like, he's going to get carries no matter what anyways, so it's not like he's going to be blanked.
That's a real thing in college football. Like, for people who are new to CFB, it's not like the NFL where, two running backs can really make an impact in your team on the same team. Like, if you're on a team like Oregon especially, where they're getting a ton of carries, like, don't rule out taking two running backs from the same team just because they're playing from the same team. It's not necessarily minus EV, especially with our pricing. Like, if a guy's like you say, Wild's at 5K, that's a great. Yeah, and Wisconsin is the primary case for that. But there's a lot of teams in college football where both running backs are valuable, and this is a case where I wouldn't, at 5.1, I think is where Wilds is. Like, I definitely would not shy away from. You're really hedging a lot. Remember, in elite in college, your opponent doesn't have the guy. So, like, you get Mike Davis, your opponent's not going to have any of Mike Davis. If he explodes, you might win the game on that. So, having Wilds on the team is another guy who could also explode. Not the worst thing. It's a head-to-head game most of the time. We will be releasing triple ups in larger field college games to the lobby tomorrow, if people were asking about that. The only reason we didn't do it yet was because we just thought the head-to-heads farther in advance would fill faster than trying to get a 3 or 6 man game filled. So those will exist tomorrow, just when the lobby's a little bit more active. But we can probably move on to the Washington State game. That's the one I think is.
Well, I want to ask one more question here because I'm not like. Because I picked a South Carolina receiver, and the other guy picked a South Carolina receiver, and he picked Pharaoh Cooper, which, Zach, in your spreadsheet, you have him as the third receiver, a different shade for whatever reason. Maybe you'll tell me why here in a second. And I picked Damiere Byrd. Bird's supposed to be the number one guy according to the spreadsheet, Zach. Did I make the right decision by going Byrd over Cooper?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's their top target. What, if you don't mind me asking, what shade does Cooper on your?
He's like a whitish light gray compared to the other two who are kind of like a darker gray. Is there any meaning to that?
That's probably on accident. That's it's usually gray or white, so it's probably just a lighter shade of gray on accident. But
gotcha.
yeah,
I was just sitting here like, come on, man. I didn't understand the point of picking Cooper. I was like, maybe he's like a Noyle type compared to like a Seals Jones.
No, I think it's one of those things where their passing game isn't. They don't have an Alshon Jeffrey. You know what I mean? They don't have a guy that's gonna. They throw it up to the end zone. He's gonna go up and get it. I don't think they have that guy. So they might spread it around a little more than in years past, and that might be what the chance he's taking.
Yeah, I like Dylan Thompson, man. I got him tomorrow. I got a lot of faith in him. He had enough playing time last season for me to feel good about it. And I really think you can go some of those TMU running backs we kind of discussed briefly, Trey Carson and then Trey Williams. Who knows what's going to happen with it? I think Carson gets the majority of the carries, but you can't really tell when someone has kind of said he wants to run the ball more, and he said that he's impressed by both those running backs. So
I think Grant made a good point, though. It's like they are breaking in a new quarterback. Even though he seems pretty confident with the guy, he's still new, and I think they will use those running backs because
especially early in the game. I think they're using both. Like I think it was like the CFF site was tweeting this stuff out. Like they basically said they had everyone as like co-starters, and my guess is that there's a good chance you can see 15 to 20 carries for two different guys. So I'm not drafting one without the other. I just don't have enough confidence in how their rotation is going to work to not draft them both. But I feel like if I draft them both, then I am gonna. Remember, at least I'm talking for head-to-head strategy. If you're playing a triple up tomorrow, or you're playing a 6-man, and you want to get an edge, I probably wouldn't recommend going with both of them. But for the most elite games, they're gonna be head-to-head tomorrow, especially the tournament games. Some of the people in the chat are looking at. In a head-to-head, I think I wouldn't do them if I didn't play both. So that's the safe way to roll.
All right, so Washington State and Rutgers. That's the late game of the night. You get that late sweat in it, and I think that's the highest spread of all the games. It should be 60 points, just about.
Over under, right?
Yeah, over under total points. I love Connor Halliday. I think that's like an easy, safe pick at the quarterback spot with the 6 points per touchdown. He throws at some interceptions, but I'm not worried about that against Rutgers' defense. That's a defense that you have to pick on. I wrote about Halliday in my write-up. They're bad. They're just really bad.
They're really bad. They're a bad football team, and I don't expect. I really don't expect much, at least in the way of. Actually, Rutgers got a decent offense, but the defense is just so bad that it's something that's worth targeting. And Holiday throws. Think Texas A&M. If you want to think about how Washington State's offense works, you don't really watch Pac-12 football. Just think about Texas A&M because it's the exact same offense essentially. It was brought over from there. And Holiday's a guy that if you're big into the CFB community in DFS or just big in the DFS community, I played Head Shopper a bunch of times last year in daily fantasy because when I was big in the Star Street lobby, me and Chop would play in almost every game together. And he used Holiday multiple weeks. He's one of the best college football guys out there. And the reason he does it is because he throws 1 billion touchdowns. And that's where there was 4 points per passing touchdown. There's 6 points per passing touchdown in Elite. And this guy could throw 5 on Thursday night. So I would be aware of that in your draft because he doesn't run. He doesn't look like he has the most upside in the slate. But you could be very, very stunned when you see his point total by the end of the night in Elite. I think he's going to win some people some games. So he's probably my top play of the day, which is why I wanted to go there. I think at receiver also, I mean, Vince Mail obviously is a pretty solid play at 9K. Like, it's just a really, the guy that your eyes are going to go to at receiver in the mid-value range is probably going to be Treadwell for the pure talent reasons, but like Mail at 9K in this game with the over-under could be a superior play, non-salary included, and is 2K less. So I think that the Washington State guys are so easy to ignore because they're not flashy, but this is a team that will not be that useful in the game when they're playing like Stanford, but playing Rutgers, you got to be on it because that's the great thing about CFB. Bad opponent, a team transforms into a completely different team, and that's what we're going to get tomorrow.
Okay, and obviously with Halliday being successful tomorrow, I think we can all agree that we think, and even Stukas in the chat, and I'm guessing DC Coop will be the same way, think that these are going to be successful. So which receivers are we looking at? I know we talked about Gabe Marks and pre-show being out with some weird, sneaky, could be out for the full season type deal. Which receiver are you looking at? I mean, if you're looking at receivers, you have Craycraft, you have Vince Mail. They're both at 9K. So which one would you go with, Zach?
I'm going with Mail, basically for what Grant said earlier. Another guy I want to watch, though, too, is Dom Williams. He's at 5K, and that offense spreads the ball around so much that I think that 4 or 5 guys could have 6, 7 catches, 8 catches, and give you very good value. But I want to kind of go back here. You say Rutgers is a terrible team, and I agree with that. But last season they opened up at Fresno, and they went to overtime 52-51 with Fresno, and nobody expected that. Not saying they'll do it again. I just think that, if we get another game like that, we're in for great fantasy numbers.
Oh, I think on both sides here. That's why I wanted to bring it up. I think that there's a lot to be had here in this game. And one of the reasons I'm so wary about people picking Hill is because I think Gary Nova is in such a good spot at 14K. And I also think we're talking about Hendrick in a bit. Hendrick, and we'll also talk about Robinette. There's some quarterbacks that just aren't that expensive in reality in the slate that are really solid plays. Nova's one of them. They'll be playing from behind, and he's okay. Like, he's not the worst quarterback ever, and the defense for Washington State's not great. It's only an 8 spread. It's not like they think it's going to be a 20-point spread. So I think Rutgers' offense is alive. I think Holiday is the top play. I think that's someone was asking what my top play was. Holiday's the top play of the day in general for me. But it doesn't mean that Nova and the Rutgers guys, Carew, who I said Ohio State 241, said was the best play of the day. I mean, I don't know about that, but I do think that they're both really viable. Like Carew, I think is a top 4-round pick in an elite draft at 8K. I'd feel pretty comfortable with that. I feel comfortable. I mean, what do you think, Zach? Would you feel comfortable stacking the game? I think you could stack the game in general.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's 6 legitimate guys that I wouldn't mind having all of them. Yeah, you're right. Stack the game. Definitely.
From a Vegas perspective, it's just the close game of the day, and I always like looking at that high over/under, low spread game. I think that there's a lot of certainty. Not the only way to go, but one.
You brought up Nova. Like, I'm referring to that game against Fresno last year. He threw 5 touchdowns in that game. I mean, but he's not great season long, but that game he might, like you said, be very productive.
Tempo is going to be really fast thanks to Washington State's offense. So, in Washington State's defense, it leaves a lot to be desired. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be clear. Neither of these teams are good. Like, you're not going to have, like, these are probably not bowl teams. If they are, it's a 6-6 team. But, like, you're not talking about a really good team on the other side. That's what makes – these are the best fantasy games from a skill perspective to target in DFS and college football. Like, people are going to be off of them. And I think that, on standard salary cap sites – these are going to be low owned. You could see some low owned. If you want to win a GPP, Nova's a great target. Like, he probably is not a guy that's going to be super high owned. But, I mean, the only problem is I heard on sites like DraftKings, the salaries are soft, so maybe Nova won't do anything for you. But on Elite, the salaries aren't that soft at quarterback, and Nova gives you some value. So definitely recommend going in that direction.
Quarterback's tough because we'll get to some of these other guys, but like you kind of have to take the chance with Hedrick, Thompson, or Nova if you don't get Kenny Hill. If you feel like if you don't get Kenny Hill or you don't go crazy on the value receivers or running backs, you have to kind of hope one of them hits it, and that's why I went Dylan Thompson somewhat early in my draft because I didn't want to get stuck with. I'm not going to put any stock in Nova, not in the head-to-head. I was just looking at his stats. He had like 4 games where he had 3 or more touchdowns, and then the rest of them he had 1 or 0, which is just scary to me. I know that Paul James had like a really big game against Eastern Michigan, so Nova didn't do anything, but he's scary. That's a GPP guy for me. That's not a guy I want to roll out in this like elite tournament. I don't want to get. I don't think the other guy's going to pick him anyway, so I'm like, well, might as well just let him not even be a part of this whole equation. I do think Peru is a solid option. I think no matter what, they're going to pass. They're going to have to keep up with Washington State.
Yeah.
Now, do I think Nova's going to be throwing interceptions? Sure, but that doesn't affect Peru more than the fact that they're going to be throwing more and more. So at 8K,
I love him, man. Such a pure number 1 receiver at 8K. Like, I just think that I can't see myself playing a draft in which I wouldn't play Peru if I could. That's where I see him at least.
And he's right at these other levels of guys like Fitzpatrick and Cunningham and even John. I think John Christopher is a little bit more than 8K. So you're looking at a guy that's probably has a lot more upside than a guy like Fitzpatrick and Cunningham with quarterbacks who are good in terms of passing a little bit there, but not necessarily the stud potential that a guy like Carew has. Is there a running back? I mean, Paul James. How high would you rank Paul James in this one, Zach?
I mean, I think he's got to be pretty high. I mean, he's their guy. They have 2 or 3 guys they do give carries to, but Paul James, I think, is the clear-cut number 1. And until he goes down, I think he's going to get 75-80% of those carries. And like I said, Washington State is not just some great defense he's going up against, so don't be shocked if he goes for 150 plus.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So have we got enough of these guys in? I think you can do a little bit of a stack there. It's tough with a head-to-head, but I think that the spread is high enough where you can kind of feel a little bit better about it, especially with a guy like Tyler Croft. If you feel like going a little bit cheaper and going off the deep end of the pool a little bit here, but
I don't see why you take a tight end, but that's like.
Just a different option.
Unless like there's a Jason Morrow type guy, like I don't know, he's an option with all the 5K guys we discussed. Croft was used in this draft by D. Coop. He can score a touchdown. I can see him getting points. I just don't see him being a guy I'd go with. There's plays that I like that that ask for some evaluation of this draft. There are plays I like more. I prefer. At running back, we talked about it earlier, I prefer like going with Brandon Wilds over Croft. He's the second string.
Wow, Brandon Wilds over Croft?
I think that the game situation is going to be good. So he's a guy.
And Wilds will get carries. He will get carries, that's for sure.
Just a good game situation. Like, I don't know. I just think that Croft is a good bet to score a touchdown, but so is a running back who, in a game that could be a blowout, could get a touchdown late. So I I think that, also there's a salary as part of the equation here. Like, it can be a big difference between $5,100 and 65. Like, depending on how you're trying to fit. Like, I mean, if you look at court, it's the same difference between getting Paul James and Mike Davis almost. And I think that, Mike Davis is a big upgrade from Paul James, assuming Mike Davis is healthy. So, it's a bold statement. But.
So going to this next game, Boise State, Ole Miss. Let's talk about my best friend, my homie, the guy I met today and just immediately clicked with, Jay Ajayi. Is he worth the $20K price tag, Grant? Do you think it's worth it to do that, or would you rather just kind of save up a little bit, maybe upgrade, your $7K guy to one of those Washington State receivers and go Mike Davis instead?
Well, the cool thing is that when you're doing a show, and it's the case for basketball and college football, we're all researching together here, in a way. So once you're talking through everything and you have your own research, you start to come to realize patterns. There are so many there's so much value at wide receiver when you talk through it, and you really look at it. That I think that it doesn't look as much. You just open a draft and elite. The receiver value doesn't even look that good. But then when you talk through it, you realize, wow, there's a lot of guys. There's also some good running backs you can use in flex, just like a Wilds was discussed. But I think you can pay up. I think it's a mistake to not pay. I want Holiday, but I get Holiday first. I still have room to get Davis or Ajayi. I want to get one of those two running backs because I don't see why not. I think that's a mistake. You got to start your draft in elite this week with high salary players. And we'll talk about this in show to show. It's going to vary. I think that some weeks you want to start with the minimum salary guys in elite drafts, but there's enough value here where I think that not starting with your studs would be a mistake. So I want Holiday, and then after Holiday, I'd say I'd go to running back, and if Ajayi's there, make it work. Find a way. That would be my suggestion. Put receivers in there. Mike was telling me, the other guy who works at Elite on our salaries, the projections that resulted in Ajayi's price, and they were very, very nice. And he's a pretty good analyst, so I think that there's a reason he was priced there. So I wouldn't ignore that.
All right, Zach, really quick. I know you have a whole lot of thoughts on this, but what do you think about?
You asked me if I thought he was worth it.
I didn't want to torture you any more than I've already done today. Do you think he can run over? He's a big dude. I saw him in person. That guy's a big man.
Yeah.
Do you think he can run through an SEC defense like Ole Miss?
Oh yeah. I think he can run through just about anybody. I watching him play, this might sound totally biased, and it probably is. But what impresses me the most about him is that he doesn't go down with one guy tackling him. It takes 2, 3, 4 guys to bring him down. And I don't care what kind of defense you are. That's pure strength. And if he can turn 2-yard gains into 5-yard gains, and 20 carries, that's 100+ yards easy.
Yeah, I like him. I decided early on that I wanted certain guys like Davis and Halliday before I would reach for a guy like Ajayi, and I almost did at the end, but then Two-Gun got him. But what do you think about the receiver situation? I like both these guys, Zach, Matt Miller and Williams Rhodes, but they're Miller's probably $2K more than I want, and Shane Williams Rhodes is too little yardage wise for me to go 11K on him with Treadwell right there. Yeah. Do you think that they're a little bit overpriced for your liking, or do you think that you could see yourself rolling with them tomorrow?
I'm worried about Williams Rhodes, man. I like him, but they've talked about moving him as a pure outside receiver, and at 5'6", I don't know how it's going to work out, especially against Ole Miss, probably the most talented team they're going to play all season, especially at probably corner. But I just have to think that Matt Miller's got to be the guy when it comes to their receiving options in this game, anyway.
Yeah, I haven't watched much Boise State, but if I'm correct, he's a big volume reception guy, right?
Miller or
Miller.
Miller, he's not a deep threat at all. The only time he goes deep is if they, give a pump fake and he's just wide open over the top. But, he runs a lot of slants and a lot of hitch routes to where he catches turns, gets 7-8 yards.
So for PPR, he's a masterpiece kind of guy. Because assuming he'll get a lot of catches, so that's why he's
a possession receiver.
That's why he's projected where he is, and that's why his salary is so high, is because of the receptions.
They're going to try to get him the ball in those quick slants and hope that maybe he can break one for 20, 30 yards.
He's a viable play. Like, I haven't seen him used a lot in elite drafts. His salary is high. There are a lot of lower salary receivers, but I just say don't ignore Miller. Not sure if he's the best pick, but when we roll out the triple ups and some of the bigger field games tomorrow, that's where I'd recommend targeting Miller, because that's the kind of guy, if you want to beat two people, he's a nice upside player. 'Cause if you can get some of those receivers, I think Chris, you remember from last year in DFS, you get a guy with 10 receptions. When you ever get that opportunity, I'm not saying we'll tomorrow, but you get a guy with 10 receptions, that's a big boost.
It's just it's a safe play, man. That's like Antoine Goodley was so good last year and always worth the money. I mean, 99% of the time worth the money was just because you knew he was getting 6 to 8 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. And if you could work a lineup around him that you liked, you almost had a guaranteed 50-50 team. But I actually picked Matt Miller as one of my last picks. And I'll tell you why. Because I was talking to a Boise fan at the Hall of Fame, which, by the way, I don't know how much to take credit, to take what he says for whatever, but he told me Kellen Moore should be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but that just tells you how crazy he was, I guess. He told me that the corners for Ole Miss are just as small as the Boise corners, supposedly. So Matt Miller, 6'6", I'm totally digging it. It's a little more than I wanted, but I had the money left over, and I really liked the rest of my team, so I went with him over going Itavius Mathers, which I'm not even going to discuss here. But really quick, before we go deeper into this, Adam wanted me to say he wants to give away T-shirts. So if you deposit $50 or more on Fantasy Elite before tomorrow's action, before Friday's action, or even before this weekend's action, he will give you guys a nice Lou Dogs T-shirt. Send him a message. Grant and Adam will be in correspondence and make sure that each other talk to each other for anybody that deposits 50 or more to Fantasy Elite.
And if you need help, let me know. I mean, I can get you all set up with all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you deposit 50 or more, you'll also get, if you need a link for that, you also will get a bonus, on that. So, what I recommend doing is just hit the $25 thing twice in our special, if it's in there right now. I think it is. And if it's not, then it might only be on one page. But hit whatever our closest bonus is, or just figure it out with me. I can help you out with it, and you'll probably get a $25 or $30 immediate bonus also. So I mean, you're getting free cash, you're getting the T-shirt. Value is very high. There's no better value in the industry right now than our bonuses, and that we're adding to that with free swag. So.
Dude, the free swag from Lou is awesome.
Great. I wear my sweatshirt everywhere, by the way. That's my number one sweatshirt in my rotation.
I wish I could wear it. Being in Atlanta, it just does not ever happen. I'm about a month and a half away from rocking it all the time.
Awesome.
Back to here. I think the one guy really I looked at Ole Miss, and I like Bo Wallace, but the problem is they just scavenge all his touchdowns and steal them from him. That for some reason Ole Miss hates giving Bo Wallace touchdowns, but Laquan Treadwell, and I kind of picked him because I like the $11K price tag. I like the fact, he's a young guy and he was talking crap about Boise State's receivers or quarterbacks. So I was kind of digging it. A guy's motivated, guy wants to put it up, so hopefully he does. Zach, what do you think about him going up into the DBs, and then we'll finish off this Thursday slate really quickly here and get into Friday.
You talking about Treadwell?
Treadwell against the DBs, yeah.
I mean, he's got a clear advantage. I don't think there's any disputing that. But I think that, I think Boise's going to try to get up and try to press him. Or really, they're going to try to get up underneath and jam him and make sure that defensive line that has that experience can get to Bo Wallace. And if they can get to him, I don't think it matters what Treadwell can do.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen because I want Treadwell to do well. No offense. I'm
being
a little torn.
I think obviously he's if Wallace has any kind of time, Treadwell's gonna get open. I mean, I think I'm so nervous about this game. I'm sorry. This is my game for the weekend, but it's on Thursday.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. This is big. This is gonna be like my Ohio State game next weekend.
So
this is the toughest game of the slate, I think, to break down too. I just don't find it. You got the highest priced guy on Elite, favored to lose by 11 at running back, which is kind of tough. And then you got a receiver that's in a really good spot, actually, by that spread. I should have mentioned that Miller is actually in a great spot if they're down. Like, that's a thing I didn't mention when we talked about it first. And then with Ole Miss, you're right. Like, Bo Wallace is in a good place technically, but maybe not. I think it's then you have Mathers, who was talking about, who could be in a really good place, but he's 3K behind, barely behind Paul James, who's so much better known. Like, is Mathers a guy who can play over James? Like, that's just he's a guy I've seen a little bit, but like, I'm just saying, like, he's priced in a tough spot. This is a game that if I was playing for $250, I just can't see myself. Miller's the only guy I can see myself like really targeting at wide out, and maybe Ajayi at running back if he wasn't picked right away. That's all I really have. That's weird.
By the way, Ole Miss is using co-starters at running back too, with Jalen Walton. So Mathers may not even be that great of a play with Walton taking some of those carries. So that'd be very hard for me to take him.
Yeah, Walton's
all right, so
play people have been using.
Yeah,
late rounds.
Walton, people have been picking Walton.
He's been getting picked.
I think if co-starters, he's cheaper, a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of Walton. There's been definitely a little bit of Walton usage. I'm not sure I'd do it. I prefer the Texas A&M running backs personally. Because why do you want to go pay up $10K and $15K for a combo when you can pay $8 and $9? I just think that I prefer it. I think also the quarterback situations we mentioned at Texas A&M, like, they're going to be more – Bo Wallace will be more comfortable throwing than whoever is in the – because that's the thing we talked about with Texas A&M quarterbacks. Like, you can't rule out halfway through the game Kyle Allen coming in at quarterback. Like, if it's a struggle, like, this guy was the best quarterback recruit in the country. Like, if they're losing and it's not going well, and they might just put him in for experience. So, it's something to be careful about.
All right, so real quickly to finish off this Thursday slate, we can get into Friday real quick before staying up way past my bedtime here. I don't think you can really roster PJ. I mean, I think you could roster PJ Walker, but I wouldn't want to. Two high-priced quarterbacks would be kind of tough. You'd have to get Webb and Noyle and all those guys. And I don't think you can roll Patton Robinette. Like, I just don't think that's something you should ever condone here. So to me, the only discussion is, other than Ralph Webb, which we've discussed, is Jalen Fitzpatrick or Jared Cunningham. Are either of them worth owning at $7K, or do you think your money is spent elsewhere, maybe just going cheaper and going Noyle and Jones instead? Zach?
Yeah, I'm going to go Noyle and Jones because I feel like you said, you're not even touching Robinette, so why would I want to go Jordan Cunningham? You know what I mean? I think Noyle and Jones have a lot more upside. Yeah, that's my opinion. So.
Yeah, I would just say when we put triple ups in bigger tournaments in the lobby, these guys are all triple up in tournament plays. Like, I could see you going with, if you're playing a 6-man or 4-man, I'm not sure what we're going to use tomorrow, we'll see, with one QB, and you want to try to get a contrarian, like, stacked together. Maybe you go with a running back early like Davis or Ajayi in the draft, and then let like Robinette and all these receivers follow you around that running back, and that's how you build your roster. I'd be okay with that. That's the only scenario under which, or if you're playing a triple up, you have 2 QBs, same scenario, you go with running back early, and then you try to get those guys off the board, and then you go with the quarterback from Vanderbilt in that stack. But yeah, a triple up in a bigger game, I could see using those guys, but I can't see it head to head.
Dude, I'm so close to getting. I have Damiere Byrd and Jalen Fitzpatrick. Do you think I should finagle a way to get Leonte Carew in here?
Yeah, I would do that. My answer is yes.
Okay, so now you guys run the show for about 5 minutes because I gotta get this going.
All right.
Yeah, I'll get Carew in there before it goes on replay, because the shows are all on demand. Obviously, letting you guys know we do late shows, but like, this is for college football. It's worth watching the shows back while you're doing your research. So we have all this on demand. The other side of the matchup, basically Vanderbilt and Temple. Temple's favored to lose by a lot. That actually could bode well for PJ Walker. He's one of my darlings going into the season. I wrote about him on our Fantasy CFP site. I used him a bunch last year. I actually thought he could be a top 10, 15 quarterback this year in points. I like his just because he runs. Elite is a 6 6-point passing touchdown site, though, so it actually takes away its value a little bit. Some of the running quarterbacks, when you get 6 points for passing, it takes away the value of some of those rushing TDs. I really like P.J. Walker. As a player, I'm having a hard time recommending him in this slate. But yeah, it's a really difficult slate. But remember, Vanderbilt's got a new coach. I mean, I won't stop someone from using him. Like, if you want to use P.J. Walker, your upside's high, but just don't get blinded by the upside of the running over Connor Holiday's 5-touchdown passing upside. Because people's head, I just feel like Walker could look like a higher upside play, but I just think that Holiday has the most upside still. And if you get a lot of value, you can plug Walker in as a QB2, or I can also see pairing Walker with Nova. I like Walker better than Wallace. What's your opinion on Walker and Wallace? I'd rather go Walker than Wallace, I think.
I think Walker. I think Walker's really just a playmaker for that offense, just all around. Like, I'm looking at his game logs from last year. He threw 4 touchdowns in 3 of his 9 games. I mean, you talk about him running. He throws quite a bit. I mean, now, again, Vanderbilt, does the new coach bring the Stanford defense, that tough defense to them? I don't think they just improve overnight, but do they become a strong defense and make it tough on him? But I think he's too dynamic of a player to not consider anyway.
I think he's way better than Hill, though. Like, you're way better off going with P.J. Walker and looking for value elsewhere than going at that $5K price. But that's my opinion. I think that Walker just is not a first-round pick, but he's probably a 4th, 5th-round pick. And you're not going to be in a terrible spot if you take him. But yeah, I just now think that you got to look to that running back position first after you take Holiday, because, oh man, I just think that the depth there is just not that high of featured guys. Like, that's not how I saw it at first when looking at the slate for Elite, but
right.
It's going to be James Davis, Ajayi, if you want to sum up the early slate. And we can move on. We definitely are running a little bit over, but it's probably worth talking about Friday at least a little bit.
Right. Yeah, and I, by the way, I thank you for that. I had to go Tyler Croft and Leonte Carew.
That's a good combo, though, because Croft could vulture some touchdowns from Carew. So, I think that I always like pairing guys up in head-to-head. So I think it makes – I think it's an upgrade. I think that you're putting yourself in a good spot with those two guys. It's quality value. I think Mike is Carew.
Yeah, I gotta go. I was so close to being able just to swap one for one, but I just missed. Anyways, all right. So Arizona plays, and Anu Solomon and Jones Grigby have been named starters, quarterback and running back. They're both 5K, which kind of makes it interesting because I guess you can say same situation as Kenny Hill and Ralph Webb here. I think you go quarterback then running back really quickly, then we'll get into these other ones because I think these are pretty much no-brainers in terms of picking a 1 and 2. Zach, which one would you go with first?
I think I'm going to go with Solomon.
Yeah, and Grant, do you agree with that, even though he is that quarterback position?
I'm on board with that in this case. Different, very, very different slate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think with Taysom Hill, man, if you can load up and get 5K guys, Taysom Hill, I wrote about him. He's my number 1 quarterback play, and honestly, like on a site like Fancy Aces where he's not like an unbelievable price, he's my number 1 guy I'm getting no matter what. I just think that he's such a good play. Even at this 27K, tomorrow if I'm still playing, I will try very, very hard to get Taysom Hill in my lineup with Jamal Williams out. Zach, who's the guy that's replacing Jamal Williams? And if he's like bottom barrel price, do you think he's worth it?
I was actually looking up that pre-show. I think it's tough to say, but I think the lead guy in that situation is Adam Hine, and he's actually at 87. So.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at Vegas yet for this week, by the way. Solomon's the clear number 1 play with Arizona's favored to win by 23. I just didn't know anything about UNLV, to be completely honest with you. But they are, with a 23-point spread, 60 over-under, minimum salary quarterbacks, not going to throw a bunch of interceptions. Yeah, that's a good decision.
By the way, I kind of want to throw this out there real quick. I said this on my show I had last night, but I didn't know this, but Anu Solomon's a 4-time state champ in high school at quarterback.
Yeah.
Wow.
How does that happen?
I Even if it is Nevada, I don't. Does Nevada have good football? I don't care.
Las
I
Vegas
saw
does. I
that.
don't know if that's where he's from. Is he from Las Vegas?
I don't know. I
That
saw
would
that
make
the other
if
day
he's from
though.
Las Vegas. That makes this game even more special for him because they're in.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
Man.
it's late.
So do you think I'm looking at the big name players here, and I have a guy star, Deontay Greenberry, in this Houston game, 14.7K, but honestly, I mean he's the guy like in Houston, and I know this Daniel Spencer is 9K. Those two guys are really good looking to me.
Spencer at 9K
price
is
wise,
a cheap price.
Mm-hmm.
do you think that's more appealing to you, Spencer at 9K, or Greenberry being like the stud who you feel very confident with at least getting you a touchdown and 10,
Just get them both.
10 catches or 100
I was
yards?
about to say that. Take them both.
Yeah, I don't think you want to restrict yourself on either guy. I mean, the cool thing about Elite, the snake format, is it's possible you'll get sniped from one of them once the other guy goes. And that's what I love about the way this works. You have like a limited set of games, and when you're sweating it out, there's a high probability that there's a player on your opponent's team that's either in the same game on your same team or on another team. So you're going to see a lot of movement in the one game you're watching, so the sweat should be – I think sweats in Elite are going to be bar none the best in college football. But – I just don't think that there's any reason not to try to get exposure to both of those guys in a game where they're favored. They're playing UTSA, and O'Korn is in the same boat. Might as well talk about all three. It's a high-powered passing offense, and Hill's the obvious guy. But if you don't get Hill or you don't think he's too expensive, I can make an argument O'Korn's a better play at 19K than Hill is at 27K. But I don't think you'll be able to roster both. So. Because I think you're going to need Solomon if you get, or you're going to need one of those 5K guys. But I can't see the scenario which you roster both. I can't see the scenario which you roster both of those guys. But I think it's one or the other, and both are solid. Like no.
Yeah, they'd be kind of nuts to be able to fit in both. I don't think that's going to be possible. I'm looking at this. The other games involved are Colorado State and Colorado, which is tough because honestly, you knew Paul Richardson, Sefo, the quarterback for Colorado State was that named Grayson Garrett. But they're all priced. Richardson's gone, but they're all priced pretty adequately here. Is there anybody that jumps in this game? Maybe the Colorado game that jumps out at you?
I love Nelson Spruce, and I'll tell you why. Last season against Colorado State, and this is a rivalry game for them, so they'll be up for it. But
Vegas is attractive. Vegas part's attractive in this game.
8 catches, 99 yards with Paul Richardson on the field. So he clearly is getting targets even with a star receiver on the other side, and I think he steps into the number 1 role and takes over.
Did this game start as a 13-point favorite for Colorado, and now it's a 3-point favorite?
Really?
I'm looking at Vegas, and that's what it said.
Ow.
Wow, that's pretty intense there. And the spread or the total is 59.5, so it's about the same here in this slate. Besides the BYU game, which is 52.5 points for the total, the other ones are 59, 61, 56, and 60. So
early week games are incredible. Someone whoever put these early schedules together really wanted good fantasy football on Thursday and Friday. They put together these great ideal fantasy football slates of really random games. Houston UTSA is a great fantasy game, and that's who really cares about that game? But they put it on Friday, so that's.
So the only people that care about that game, Grant, are people like me and you and Zach, to be honest.
Yeah, and anyone playing Elite on Friday, it's probably the only place with big college football action on Friday. But Deontay Greenberg is a great. We've talked a lot about them, but the BYU UConn game, the good question I think I've asked Zach, who probably knows the most college football people, who has the deepest knowledge of random guys of all three of us. Are there guys on UConn or on UTSA or UNLV that are even remotely worth looking at, or are those teams just if you're playing a triple up or something or a big tournament, is there a guy on those teams that could have a good game, or is it just you don't even want to think about those?
I think there's only 2 guys on UConn that I'd consider even looking at as the wide receivers, Jeremy Davis. And Deshaun Fox at 5K. Those are the only 2 guys I would consider.
Well, Deshaun Fox, a 5K guy. This one doesn't seem to have, because the teams aren't as popular as the other ones in tomorrow's games. This is going to be tough to find the value, guys, because I mean, you're gonna have to look at your spreadsheet with the depth charts to really find guys that are gonna be value here.
You got to start with those Arizona guys. That's what we were talking about. I said elite gets different every draft. I think in the Thursday draft, I say start with the studs. This draft, start with the value. Like, I think there's no doubt that's where you go early. You need to get those guys.
Yes.
Like Solomon's the first pick.
Get some hill here. What about Higgins from Colorado State, Zach?
Yeah, I like him. I just don't know if I don't know. I think I like some guys that are a little lower priced before I would take him.
Really?
Well, I told you.
Well, I mean, obviously Spruce, I think.
Well, he's right underneath him, but I guess. But is there somebody else? I was just looking at him. Oh, never mind. I was on a completely different thing. Never mind. I'm sorry. But no. Yeah, Higgins. That's tough because I don't know. I would personally avoid him. I like him season long, but I just get a bad feeling about him this week. I don't know why. Just roll with that.
A bad feeling.
I don't know.
People have bad feelings about players from Colorado State.
Do what?
No, nothing. Sorry. Kevon Cartwright, he's questionable for the game on Friday. Is there any way that like bumps Higgins up at all, or would you say that makes Grayson Garrett, that's quarterback for Colorado State, like a guy you kind of decreased? You know, $20K for him. Is there any chance that Cartwright really lowers anybody else's rankings there?
I mean, I think if Cartwright does not play, Higgins' value does go up just a tad. I mean, I guess he's worth a shot. I wouldn't take him.
I think the Colorado guys are interesting, though, in that game. Like, I mean, the one thing I'd say, and that's why I mentioned them in that whole grouping of the other teams, was it's a 3-point spread. And you're looking at – I always think about the spread. As I said, Vegas is the thing I look at in college football the most for a one-day period. And it's why what I'm doing balances out very well that Zach does. And knows all the individual parts of them. But, you know, Levi Fowl, not a great quarterback, pretty mediocre and pretty terrible against some teams in the Pac-12. But, you know, in a game with a 3-point spread, $14K, like he's a guy I can see using in this slate where, by the way, there's less top-heavy guys. Like, you look at receiver right now, like, top guy's 15 and mainly a few 11 guys. And at running back, your top guy's 15-7. Based on our last slate, the top guy was 21. So you're going to lower priced mean, but you might want to get a lot of guys around there. So I'd say that, yeah, I think Leah Fowl and some of the Colorado guys are, you know, they're talking about Spruce, but I think you can go with a lot of Colorado players, and they'll be on the field the whole time, both Colorado and CSU. Like, they're kind of boring guys to draft. They aren't going to excite anyone, but it's a low spread. Man,
Bryce Bobo is one to look at for Colorado as well.
I'm guessing he's the second receiver in that offense?
Yeah.
And is Jason Oden the starting running back now that D. Hart hasn't really taken over yet?
Yeah, I think, well, Hart's injured, too. He got hurt at practice, and they've been holding him out of practice, so they moved Oden as the number one. I don't know if Hart's healthy to play, he's got to see the field, right? I mean, I would think he's got to play.
You would think.
He's the most talented player on that roster by far.
You would think. It's college, right? Though. You know, Zach, this is where the college part really messes with your head. Yeah.
But no, I think Oden, as of right now, Jason Oden is the number one back at Colorado State.
I'm telling you what, right now, Friday is going to be a tough slate.
I think it's going to be exciting, though. I think a lot of these games are actually pretty good. Like, if you actually tune into the CSU-Colorado game, I think it'll actually be pretty entertaining to watch. I
definitely think it'll be entertaining just because of the fact that I'm going to be rooting on guys I've never heard of. Just guys that you like, you know, research-based, statistical, depth chart, that kind of thing.
Those are the most fun. That's why we do these shows. That's why I love college football shows. Because, like, when I do NBA shows, NFL to an extent, like, I'm telling everyone players they've already heard of. I'm not really giving anyone much of an edge. This stuff, like, we're hanging out talking through, like, players we haven't heard of. And it makes things really fun. Like, you know, you're digging down deep, and it's really fun when it's cool when you're now a person. I'm now my second year of CFP with fantasy. It's cool that now I know a lot of these guys because I played so many games last year. Like, going into last season, I couldn't tell you who Deontay Greenberry was, but now, I think that guy's he's gonna be I think he might be an NFL player, but you don't necessarily watch Houston. Now when Greenberry gets drafted, I'm gonna know that I remember that guy. He's a stud. Yeah, I mean that's what's gonna be fun. This is gonna be a slate with a lot of off the board names, but the games aren't so bad. And I think that there's going to be a lot of value in digging down into the research. And I would say research that Colorado CSU game. If I was a player, that's the way I'd look at it from the Vegas lines. I don't really know what way I'd go with that yet, to be honest. But I think that we've given you a lot of framework that you could go to look at that to build your roster around the studs. I mean, how do you go, Zach? What do you do at running back here? I just don't running back in the last slate was so obvious, but who are the guys that you want at running back in this slate?
Man, I guess Grigsby, Terrace Jones-Grigsby's got to be high on the list, especially at 5K. I would look at somebody, I guess, like Adam Hine from BYU. Even though Taysom Hill's going to get all his points, they do like to run the ball with a traditional running back as well. So, I think, he'd be a good option. Other than that, man, I think you're going to have to take a shot on one of the Arizona guys, one of the other guys, because they got like 5 guys they're trying to rotate in, man.
Dude, and another thing that makes it tough is Houston rotates running backs, and if I remember correctly, so does Colorado with Adkins and Powell.
Right.
And isn't Austin Hill a receiver? He's listed as a running back here.
Yeah, see, I saw that too. I was gonna mention that, but maybe I thought maybe there's another guy I don't know of.
That's our data provider for you.
That's an easy fix, though. I mean, honestly, that's not going to impact the game at all, really. You're going to have multiple. You have 3 flex spots, so it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not exactly. There are 3 flex spots, and the reason we do that is for short slates in college football. There's not a lot of tight ends sometimes. As you can see in this slate, there was one guy projected over 5K. So we knew that was going to be the case, and that's why for NFL we kept the same settings because we just didn't want to confuse people. So we're like the one site you don't have to play a tight end, but I think anything that gives you more positional flexibility makes things interesting. So, and it works in a snake-based draft where there's no overlap anyway. So I think it's there's going to be a lot of options here, but I think it's a high-edge slate. Like I look at the slate and I say to myself as a player, like if you research this Friday slate yourself as well, like there's probably plays you can find that we're not going to mention on this show. And because I researched the Thursday slate mainly at this point, so I'm saying like there are definitely guys in this game that you can probably snatch up that can get you an edge. It seems like a really good day if there's triple ups in the lobby. And if you're a low stakes grinder, $2.75 $1.10 games, got some triple ups. Great opportunity to build your bankroll if you go enter those like low dollar triple ups undercard and find some good guys. Because I think this is the kind of slate that you could get enough of an edge to beat 2 people if you really put the work in.
I'm going to propose something here and tell me if this is crazy. I think that with the way the running backs are in this slate, you might want to go Grigsby over Solomon. Just because look at who – I mean, you can't play De Lorenzo. You can't play Farrow and feel confident about it. Austin Hill is a receiver, but, I mean, I guess you could roll him at 15K. Jamal Williams is out. Odin is going to play, but if they name that D. Hart's, healthy-ish – I just think there's a ton of guys that really aren't going to be really playable.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I guess I see where you're going with that, but
honestly, that running back position, if Grigsby has a good first series and he just tears it up, I don't see why they would take him out. He was named the starter for a reason. And I know you said they were rotating 5 guys. But they named Solomon at the last point just like they named Grigsby the starter. Couldn't they just throw in Scroggins as well?
I guess, yeah, they could.
It's Rich Rod. I mean, he's throwing a wrench in our plans here.
I mean, it is a 24-point spread, right? 23 and a half, something like that?
Something like that.
I mean,
I think you can play multiple zone running backs for sure. We can start there because, like, there's guys 5K and you want to play Taysom Hill. I'm not going to blame you for putting a bunch of 5K guys in your lineup to play Hill. I think Houston's where I'd start, but that's not stupid.
It's just something that might be kind of something to watch. Adonis Smith for Arizona. He actually played for UNLV last year, and he's listed as a co-backup to Jones Grigsby.
Is he a 5K guy?
Yeah.
I load up on some of those guys. I mean, you just got to take 24-point spread. Backup running backs are coming into play, whether or not Grigsby is the guy. Like, the odds are high that they're going to see 2 to 3 running backs play in this game. I have no beef at all with the 5K guy already being the starter. Even if you don't get Grigsby, I got no beef following up with 2 other running backs and putting them in flex spots, especially if you're counter to – I mean, like, I could see a draft going where you start with Solomon, Grigsby goes second. And this, as we mentioned, not every draft's going to be optimal. You might get Grigsby and Solomon in a draft. In fact, good chance you will if you catch the right person. But if you don't, I can see you countering with Solomon, or if you go to, I can see Grigsby another minimum salary, or if you get someone gets Grigsby and someone else, I can see you countering with 2 more minimum salary guys in Arizona, because I'm willing to bet 3 guys have over 10 carries in the Arizona game versus UNLV. That would be my projection for the game. I don't know what guys, but I'd say a good chance to see 3 guys over 10 carries. They run a lot.
Roll the dice, man. That's what I say.
Have fun. That game's going to be awesome to watch because you get access to it because they're going to run like crazy. One thing I wanted to bring up is that Ben Pritchett, Natural Slugger, just posted his draft from the kickoff in the I actually didn't post it in chat, but he just posted that on Twitter. So for more people looking for direction on how to draft tomorrow, like Sammy Knowles, the guy who won the perfect game like a billion times, so he's not going to be bad at anything. And Natural Slugger is well known from FI. I posted that in the chat. You can kind of get an idea for where those guys went in the draft for tomorrow. And I mean, if you guys could look at it, but I think that this matchup is super intriguing. I was kind of curious where you guys thought who won this draft. I posted in the chat. It's not
Bo Wallace.
It's not the direction on either side that I would have anticipated.
Is this the order that they were picked as well?
I don't know. I can't. If people made swaps, they move around, so it's hard to say. But like, I doubt Holiday was picked last, but maybe he was. Like, I'm looking at this, and it's interesting.
Who is Ricky Galvin? Rutgers receiver, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Ben researches, so he clearly thinks that guy's good. I never heard of him either.
Yeah, I mean, I see where he's going with it. But I probably, if it wasn't for Bo Wallace, like, if he were to swap to P.J. Walker, I would say Sammy Knoll is the guy I would take in this one. I mean, that team is a very, very well put together team right there. Treadwell, he's got both the 5K guys. He's got Mayo, Carew, James Miller, Shields.
Galvin plays for Washington State.
Wow. We gotta fix that in their website, by the way. The opponent thing is just it's why you're in beta on the web. Like, we need to fix that. But there we go. That's an embarrassing moment for both of us who missed the guys team.
To be fair,
yeah, he's off the board.
To be fair, even Zach didn't know, and if Zach doesn't know immediately, then it's a pretty random guy.
Who's
do you want to do a screen? What's that?
Who's Jamal Morrow? Did we talk about him at all?
To what?
Who's Morrow on Ben's roster?
Hold on.
Jamal Morrow. He was drafted here.
Somebody's mentioned him already before. Not on the show, but like in the chat.
Oh, he was. He was mentioned in the chat. And I want to say it was. I want to give the shout out. I want to say it was. Who was it that did it? I want to say Stukas mentioned him. I'm not 100% sure. But
I think that was him. Yeah.
If he's still here, he just posted. That's top team. Maybe we'll go community help? Can you post in the chat who he is and why we care? Because that'll save us all time. You're asking about a screen share.
I know he's a freshman running back for Washington State. That's all I know.
Wow. All right, so while we wait for this kind of information, maybe Astugas, starting running back. Jeez. Well, anyways, do you want to do a screen share draft right now?
Sure. If you can do the screen share, it'd be ideal because I have dual monitors, so I'm not really sure how this is gonna how my screen share would go. But I will sign in, and I'll actually this is we can go head to head. Now I'm much more prepared than I was going into the show, and now I know Morrow is starting. That's now
not good.
It's,
Not good
I
for me.
did
What's
change
your
it. I'm
what's your
just
name
G
on?
Girton.
What's
I'm
your
G
name
Girton.
on it?
I'm sending you a challenge, and I sent
Right.
you a challenge for $5.50 so we can play out the same price point we played out all last year. Yeah,
Breaking my bank.
killing you. But I actually will probably take this game seriously. It's a rare opportunity for me to play a cash game in my own app, so I'm gonna go enjoy it. Might as well take it seriously for the now the people watching at least know that we put money on it. So you see the web interface. I got the first pick, and non-surprisingly, we'll go with Holiday. I think that I said on the show that that was going to be my pick. So I don't think I'm stunning anybody who's been listening. People tune me out sometimes. I talk a lot, but if you didn't tune me out, I've made it very clear that Connor Holiday was my top play today.
All right, let me see if I can get this thing to. All right, so we're good here. All right, do you see my screen now?
Yep, I see it on the thing. So
All right, perfect. Well, you know what? I don't want to do both the 5K guys, but man, that really opens up a lot of doors if I do that. Where are you at, Kyle? Or Kenny Hill? Where are you at, Kenny? Man, have I really? I was going to say, wait a second here. Yeah, I thought I hit favorite, but I didn't. I was going to say, where the hell did I put Kenny Hill at? All right, so here we go. Come on. My computer's on its last leg. It's embarrassing. All right, Kenny Hill for sure. And then
Evan Ingram's a real play. I hadn't even thought about Evan Ingram. We hadn't talked about him. He could be interesting.
He could be interesting. That's a guy I want to see another time before going with him. We don't
have him in the lobby right now, but we will have triple ups tomorrow, and those are often a popular elite format. And I think they'll be more popular. They're very popular for the preseason. I think they'll be more popular for regular season. I just think that Ingram's a good play in a triple up. So you have to go deeper in the pool.
So I got Ralph Webb, and I went Kenny Hill. Who are you going with here on your turn here, on your double turn?
Well, now I'm going to draft. I think that people often overlook on Elite that there are some parts of it that you want to play similar to how you play a normal salary cap game. And I'm going to go pair Holiday with Mail. I already went all in, so I might as well just at least get a little bit more point exposure. And then at running back, after talking it all through, I think that I feel I'm going to try to see how I can fit my team if I get a Jai in here. That could make let's see. I want to go with one of these I want to get one of these good running backs. Actually, I'll go with Mike Davis. I think that I have a bit of concern about how he about his health, but I just think that I'm most comfortable because he's a guy I rostered last year. So that's a stupid thing, but it was him or Paul James, and Davis is in the better game situation.
See, here's where their strategy of this comes in, because with you just picking two studs, you got to go value. So now I can almost wait on the studs, don't you think?
Well, I got 9,000 per player, and I'm gonna need another quarterback. That's a key thing to remember because you took Hill, so I gotta draft somebody over 5K. That's worth. So I have less than 9K per player because I gotta draft at least a 12K quarterback. All right,
so yes. I'm gonna take one more value guy because I don't think you're gonna go too heavy on the value guys. Whereas I didn't star Carew.
Oh, that was bonehead. Like literally, it's a guy I said that I made very clear I wanted. Like I think that's what happens when you give away advice on shows. That would be my next pick. But then all
right, so now
helping you.
Hey, what do you guys think about Liggins, the tight end that may play goal line quarterback for Ole Miss? 300-pound quarterback, basically.
300-pound quarterback. You know what? That's ridiculous. The fact that they would do that kind of mocks college football when you do stuff like that.
He's listed as a tight end, and they say he'll be used in short yardage and goal line.
I've heard. You know what? I'll put that in the list, and I just want to throw these out there because I really believe some of the people watching the show, you make your first deposit, you can use some of your bonus. I think the triple ups are a great way tomorrow, and people are going to want to play them. Oftentimes, I've noticed as the founder, you can catch some of the weaker players who want to get a higher score on the triple ups, and that's a great play. If the roster pool is deeper, he's going to be cheap. Like, I actually don't see a problem with using him trying to win a triple up. Like, those touchdowns add up. So.
Yeah. All right. So I ended up going Paul James and Carew, two Rutgers guys, which should be like the automatic kiss of death here, but we'll see how it goes. What are you going with here, Grant?
Now I'm going to go.
You need a quarterback.
I do, but the immediate thing I'm going to do now is do exactly what I said everyone I would do on the show. I'm going to take Wilds, and I'm going to now feel slightly better about myself on South Carolina. I also really needed the cap relief, so I want him, and I now know the same thing that you're going to. I need these value guys. I'm going to take Seals Jones from Texas A&M after that. I would prefer Carew around that price range, but knowing I just lost out on him, I'm going to go grab a guy who I think is relatively safe at the 7 to 5K range, and now my salary per player looks way better, having taken Jones and Wilds. I'm just too scared. Strictly Davis that Wilds.
I don't really want to go with. I'm going to go Dylan Thompson. I have this newfound love for Dylan Thompson tomorrow against Texas A&M, and I'm putting you in one heck of a place because now you're going to have to go Gary Nova.
I could, or I could go more expensive. We'll see. I mean, I think that for sure I can tell you that Natural Slugger took Dylan Thompson, and he writes. We have two of the best minds in CFB here, and then we also Natural Slugger writes one of the really great CFB columns on a week-to-week basis. So, although I think Thompson could be overthinking it, but we'll see.
I ended up going Treadwell on my other pick as well, so. I'm just banking on the fact that you can't go expensive, so let's see what you go here value-wise.
Yeah, let's see. I'm going to go back to the draft pool down here. Let's see. I'm actually the obvious pick for me here, and could be a block, and it also could end up being stupid because I didn't know this guy was a few minutes ago. But I'm taking Morrow from Washington State, just knowing that I already have exposure to the best two plays from Washington State already. So now I'm giving myself continued. Now I'm sitting with three more players to go at a solid 13K per player. So the supposed my ability now to draft studs is kind of opened back up. And I feel like if Morrow gets a 0, it's only going to be because Holiday and Mail got a ton of points. So I'm not that afraid of it.
Yeah, I like that move there. It's a smart move there. It gets you back
thank you to our chat member Stukas, who has let me know who Morrow is prior to this. Prior to this pick, because the only show where apparently the hosts get advice from the people in chat. That's good.
Second pick here. Are you going someone expensive? Matt Miller? Are you going to go Shane Williams Rhodes? Are you going to go here with your second pick?
I get some intrigue here. I was so into the Morrow pick, I think I just paused. I still have 45 seconds to go. All right, so I just gotta decide if I want to go for the win here. Or, I mean, you know what? I think I actually would have gone in a different direction, but now that I think about it more, I'm gonna go for those receptions and take Matt Miller because I feel like I can. And actually, you know what? I probably was close to taking PJ Walker, but after you brought the idea up, I thought about it. And decided that I would want the volume of receptions from Miller would be unlike anything else. He's a guy that, as I said, it's a great thing with these shows for us and for the viewers is that we brainstorm with each other, and I've just kind of come to the terms with the fact that Matt Miller is going to have a vast volume. I mean, you guys are making me more comfortable with the Boise State guys because the reality is I just played Star Street and DraftKings for DFS last year, and they didn't have Boise State in the slate ever, so I never played them. So I'm starting to learn the Boise State guys, and now that I get an idea for what I think Matt Miller is, I want him. So that's.
See, now I'm in a tough spot. Do I leave a bunch of money on the table and go like Craig Kraft and Williams Rhodes, or do I?
You can sub. Do I end up
dropping? I could always get rid of Dylan Thompson and just go stud quarterback, which I probably will do, and just go Speedy Noel.
So there's just not a lot left. I mean, like a quarterback right now. I mean, if you opening up Thompson for me is not going to do anything because I wasn't going to take him. So that's a non-issue.
Yeah, I almost have too much. You almost go too much value at the beginning like I did, and it kind of hurts you a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have enough. I have 24. So I can't draft Walker if I want to unless I sub someone down. I don't want to do that. So Nova's going to pick a quarterback at this point late in the draft. That was kind of the guy I was targeting, and I did mention that I thought that now at least I like it too because you have Carew. So now if Carew has a big game, at least I got Nova's points. So I think that there's a lot of ways I could talk myself into that pick, and I kind of liked it. So I'll roll with it. At 9,000, I got 9,400 left. And
you have some good options there.
I do have some good options that are close. I'm just going to keep on loading this game up and go with Craycraft. Oh, he can't fit. No. Oh, damn it. I hate when that happens. Like I thought I might have to make a change to fit him. Let's see. He would have been a perfect fit for the team I already drafted, just a full stack.
You're probably going to have to swap. I would just get a guy and swap.
Yeah, there's not. You took a lot of the good options. Like I could go Jalen Fitzpatrick, but that's not like awe-inspiring. I'm just going to draft Carson and then probably move off that pick. I could keep him in there. It's not a terrible last guy, although it would be me doing the exact opposite of what I recommended, which was not taking that guy alone.
All right, so I have one guy. I have 19K, so I'm just going to pick a guy. I'm going to go Shane Williams. See, this is tough. I got to do some mathematics here to figure out where I'm
swap.
going.
There's none of these guys I can swap. I was just looking at it, so I'm just going to take a little deeper look while you make that pick and who I could get in that price range. But
all right, so I have 18K, which would give me 7 extra, which would give me. I think that gets me to Dylan Thompson. I'm gonna go with the little fella, the opposite side of your little Boise State there, and go Shane Williams-Rhodes.
Yeah.
I got Ajayi, I got Williams-Rhodes, and now I'm gonna swap out real quick.
I know what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna go swap Trey Carson out. This is gonna come back to haunt me. This is gonna lose me this game, so I want to use all my salary. I'm getting Galvin in this game now, and I just know this is gonna freaking come back to bite me. Taking Wilds out, and then I have 8,206 left, and I can then put in, Jalen Fitzpatrick. But I mean, this is one of those things that I made these swaps that make my lineup use more salary. I'm not sure I just upgraded my team at all. I'm really scared Wilds is a big game. That's why I wanted him earlier. But, I mean, in terms of the game stack I wanted, Galvin fits in well. So I'm happy with that. But I can see Wilds far outscoring Galvin. And I could feel really, really dumb about making that salary upgrade. But I had the space. And just Fitzpatrick, that's where I don't know. We'll see. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, we went over the 2 slates. Thursday way more than Friday, but I think with good reason. And we're going to have to honestly get into I might be sending out some tweets tomorrow night with some of this information I find on Friday's games. But
maybe Chris and I will do a draft and we can post it to Twitter. Like if we do another game, maybe we'll do one, or I'll get Zach in there, or some combination of us will do a draft and post a link so you can kind of get an idea for where we went if you want.
Yeah, and just remember, guys, if you want to play Fantasy Elite, you get there's the special deposit bonus. Adam is offering up just the fact that you deposit $50 and you get a free Lou Dogs T-shirt, which is cool. I have actually one on right now, but it's not one you can get. And then Zach, you need to get one of these too, by the way. So maybe we can figure out a way here to get you hooked up. But Grant, appreciate you having you come on. I love the Fantasy Elite slate. Honestly, I have way too much money invested in it already. So thank you for doing that to me. Zach, obviously, enjoy you coming on, man. And I love, honestly, being one of the guys that kind of gets you thrown into the DFS action more and more.
Oh, you're going to be addicted, especially this Elite stuff, because it's the kind of game that brings out the I think the tournament's going to get a lot of people addicted. I wish I could play. I mean, I can't. But if I could play in the tournament, I'd be super into it. But I just get to facilitate the thing, and it's going to be a fun ride for these 4 days. So this is a rare scenario, not in bowl season, where there's 4 days in a row of CFB and Elite. So I think that's pretty cool, and people should just appreciate it. You don't get that all year.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be back. I think the goal is to be back Friday night so we can talk Saturday slates. And then, are you guys going to have a Sunday slate with the Monday game?
Yes, we will.
That's going to be, honestly, I am excited for that because, one, you have that Miami-Louisville game, which is intriguing with new quarterbacks, which is kind of degenerate for me to say Miami-Louisville is really, really exciting. But anyways, that'll be cool. So we will be able to talk about those 2 slates or those 2 days of slates. And we can get it going. So Friday night. Appreciate you guys coming on, and we will see you guys soon.
Absolutely. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for sticking with us.